All right, we are live on YouTube, and I'm clicking live on Instagram.
Have you been doing a LinkedIn too?
Nah, we still got to get our 150 members in our
Followers
group.
or whatever. Okay.
All right, welcome back to the Return of Ownership, episode number 5. Here we are today talking about all things Karuti, all things financial empowerment and ownership. So, Will, how you feeling today?
Feeling great. How are you?
I'm doing lovely. On number 5, I'm really starting to get the feel of it, going with the natural flow. So glad to be here. So for today, we're talking about investing in ourselves, investing in our projects, and investing in our people.
Absolutely.
If you've been paying attention to these first 4 episodes, I'm sure you've gotten the theme of what we're talking about, which is, of course, investing, but also the mindset around it. Because what we've noticed, especially in our community, is encouraging people to invest is not just telling them about the project details or the return they're going to get. You really have to deal with some of the mindset and the nuance and just all the things around it. So where you want to get started, Will?
Well, I would love to get started on, so what are your thoughts? I saw an article the other day that 300,000 Black women were laid off over a 3-month period. That's a lot of economic middle class income, potentially wealth that got knocked out.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
Okay, so I did see that article too, but the new thought that just came when you brought it up in this context is I'm wondering about the other communities and races. What are the numbers there? Because, obviously my algorithms curated towards, everything like myself.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, 300,000, that's a lot. But for other communities, I wonder, is it like a countrywide thing, or is it, disproportionately affecting Black women? Because that headline kind of, it doesn't answer that question.
Right.
So that's my question.
I didn't go. Let me do this TikTok live too. Let me see. Wipe this camera off.
Because we know media, they love to do selective reporting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you can't answer a question with a question.
I know. Okay, so let me tell you how I feel about it. Okay, so I mean, especially on the heels of the DEI stuff, like it doesn't feel good. Okay, how do I feel about it? I don't feel good about it. Okay, especially in a time right now where the economy at large is kind of on shaky ground. Like in general, we're not sure what the next 3 to 5 years look like. And so for that many Black women to be suddenly out of what I imagine is their primary, income source, I feel like it makes this conversation even more relevant. You know what I'm saying? Like we really have to find different ways to sustain ourselves outside of relying on W-2 income.
Right.
And that's where that ownership comes in.
To your point, a lot of times when you see headlines like that, 300,000, I personally go to a place where I'm like, I'm sure other people are going through the same thing, but that's a huge, huge bump to us specifically. And since that's who we know, those are the communities that we know. I can't necessarily go into other communities and say, okay, well, how does that affect them? Because I don't know their life. I don't know, what I'm saying, what their life is, but I know my life. I know growing up, in a family where my mom and dad struggled. If my dad had lost his job, that would have been really detrimental to us. Fortunately, he was in the teaching industry, so they were always looking for somebody. But I think to myself, if my mom had lost her job, it would still have been a really, really tight situation for us to try to survive in DC. So I totally get it. Maybe others are going through something similar, but for us as a community, Black women are a really huge part of income in our communities. They do a lot of the administration. They do a lot of the management. They do a lot of even the executive work, even though they may not represent it in the numbers, a lot of times they're represented in the behind the scenes, keeping these CEOs, these executives, on top with the work that they're doing behind the scenes. I've witnessed that many, many times in the corporate world. So it was devastating to me. That it hit me pretty hard, and it helps me understand like more and more why we have to continue to push ownership of ourselves, push ownership of our companies, push ownership of our goods, because if without that, we're all at risk essentially.
Yeah. And the reason why that question popped up for me in the first place is how does this affect other communities, was not necessarily thinking about the other communities, selfishly. It was more so, 300 Black women lost their jobs. We can imagine how that's affecting those 300,000 families.
Right.
But for the other families that see that headline, I'm wondering about morale. Like, do you see that headline and be like, it kind of takes a hit on your morale, and you're kind of like on the back foot, playing defense. And again, going back to the mindset, does that scare you from maybe investing or taking extra risk because you think you may be number 300,001?
Right.
So it's more like the morale, because if they're just reporting about Black women losing jobs, it just kind of skews the story,
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I mean, it could, each person views. I love to hear from your perspective, because each person views it differently, right? For me, like it reinforces like we got to get out of here. We got to get off of these W-2s, or if you are, have a W-2 or somebody who looks like you running the company, right? Because that's always important. A lot of these women specifically are so highly educated, and a lot of our people are highly educated. But right now, Black women are the highest educated population. Yeah. And so, they could go out and create their own companies. They have the tools, the skills. They've been doing the accounting. They've been doing the operations. They've been doing the finance and everything else to be able to create their own companies.
Yeah.
And this is what, this is what we're all about, right? Creating ownership and things like that. How do you think, how do you feel about the type of projects that potentially Cerruti will be working with people? Because I know we're all interested in certain things, but what are some of the projects that you think will be most empowering to people?
Yeah, man. So I really like the idea of like old school industries,
Okay.
I feel like the tech companies, Silicon Valley, the unicorns, I feel like they get a lot of attention and attraction from investors. And whether you're a professional investor or, a novice, I feel like they get a lot of the attention for the return opportunity there.
Right.
But for me, I feel like, understanding the value of real estate from a scarcity side, like we're not going to create any more lands.
Yeah. Similarly,
when you talk about like oil drilling technology, you talk about mining technology, we talking about water. This water system, we know that can improve. We talk about the electrical grids. We know those things can improve. And so for me, I'm really excited about, how we can solve some of these major problems, even like recycling and waste and stuff. It's like, I watched this new Netflix documentary. It's called Buy Now, the American Shopping Conspiracy. I think that's what it's called. And not only are they just talking about the science that these companies use to get us as consumers to just buy, but they also talk about the corporate responsibility or the lack of responsibility they have for the waste after they sell the product.
Right.
And so in that documentary, they just visually showed how all this fast fashion production, buy, how that's resulting in landfills and like environmental stuff. And they like visually showing, the scale of how that can look, after years of this stuff. And so for me, I think that's where I'm at now. Like I've never been like super huge on environmental stuff, always recycle just to do my part. But I think I'm gonna start getting more into that, because after seeing that visual and then seeing the type of the sample projects that we're talking about with Cerruti, I think that's really where the opportunity for like massive ROI comes in, because you're solving some of the biggest problems there.
Yeah, I mean, you solve those problems, and I agree with you totally. Like you solve those problems, and I've seen that documentary. It was eye-opening for me when it came to fashion. I mean, Amazon can be an addiction just like anything else, just like eating sweets or anything, right? Like
that's one of mine. I'll say it. I love to
right?
get what I need on Amazon. Okay.
Right. And so like, you realize that there's a science behind it, but then you don't necessarily understand like what's the ramification of that science, right? You throw it in the trash, but where does that trash go? It leaves your front door, right? But a lot of times it goes to other countries, including African countries, right? Countries in Asia, Latin America. It goes to these countries, and you don't really understand the effect. But there's other things that you can do. I mean, you could recycle these things. There are companies out there who are taking all this laundry in, or all these clothing in, and then turning them into like furniture and all these amazing things, right? That they're doing, right? And so it takes capital to be able to do that. Those are not always the projects that you see being shown on TechCrunch or whatever, raising $100 million, but it's going to be important for all of us in the future going forward, whether you're a billionaire or somebody who is homeless or living in modest means.
Yes.
If this continues to happen, we're going to run into a place where it's going to start affecting everybody everywhere all at the same time. And so we need those goodwill projects, right? That will return investment, because people will pay, companies will pay, countries will pay to do these things. Or you can produce a product that someone will pay for, like I said, the companies that produce chairs and bricks and other things, which can produce a product, which can produce a return, but it's an investment of goodwill, but with some remittance and some ROI attached to it as well.
Yeah. And I think that's one of my favorite parts about the Karuti offer whenever we first got started, is the B2G, or business to government relationship. Because just like you said, we're getting in there and solving the problems that they deem need to be solved. And we're directly working with them to, empower the solutions they know they need. But as government typically results in, they don't always have the resources or the power to do that kind of stuff. So it's really like bringing the power of private, companies into government to solve some of that stuff.
Yeah. Transparency on that side, due diligence, trust. Those are things that when you talk about an entity like a government who is trying to also promote social good, having projects attached to a government kind of gives people that assurance that they know that it's not just backed by one person, it's backed by the government, who is also looking at this thing and saying, hey, look, it's important for us to put resources. We're backing companies who are doing these types of projects in our community to keep our community both clean and safe, but also, provide jobs, right? I mean, there's a whole group of people right now who are looking for jobs. I forget how high the unemployment rate was in South Africa, but I think it was like 30% or something like that. It was a crazy amount, right?
Yeah.
And so you imagine that, like, if these projects were being done and these companies were being made, and with the government support,
jobs being created.
Yeah, jobs are being created, products are being produced, right, and things are being exported out. That's going to be huge. Those are the type of projects that are going to be huge, I think, on Karuti, and I'm excited about. So let me ask you, what does how do you feel about someone who's never invested before? What would you say to them?
Someone who's never invested before. So because of the way I learn, I realize you can't just tell me what to do. Like, oh, do this, and do this. Even if you're the most certified, most successful investor, I can understand what you're saying to be true. But the way my brain works, I have to understand why, and the background, and the historical reference, and the first principles, and how that relates to me in my life. And so because that's how I learn, that's how I like to, approach other people with that same idea. And so if I'm talking to somebody who wants to invest for the first time, that's exactly what I would do. I would help them understand the big picture of investing and why relying on one source of income, relying on an active source of income isn't sustainable over the long run. Kind of help them reframe how they spend their time every day. And if they're doing what they want to do every day, okay, sure, maybe I'll have to come at a different approach. but investing allows you to free up your time to do what you want to do. And so it's really just framing it for somebody to see how that benefits them, you know, because at the end of the day, Maslow's hierarchy of needs says that self-preservation is our number one goal and self-interest. And so if you can present some information to somebody that shows them why it matters to them, then you got them all day.
Yeah. I was looking at a stat that said that in the Black community, we invest about $2,500 a year into different things. Those are the people who are over the 2% of the Black population that makes over at 100,000 or over 100,000 a year, right? And so they invest about $2,500 into that. If you take that number, right, that's a big number that people are investing in. But if you take the 40, whether you look at the Census Bureau, whatever it may be, the 42 or the 48 million Blacks in the United States, that's a big gap between those who are investing and those who are not. Why do you think that there's such a gap between the people who are investing and the people who do not invest?
Man, I'm trying to find a different way to say it comes back to mindset. You know what I'm saying? Because I can
find a different way. Say what you said. I say what I said.
Say that. It comes to the mind. It comes to the mindset. Okay. Because, you know, understanding the importance of investing. Okay. So it comes back to mindset. Specifically, we're going to talk about a poverty mentality and a wealth mentality. Yes. So these definitions I got from one of my first mentors getting into the financial empowerment space. His name is Rob Wilson.
Yeah.
And the way he defined poverty mentality and wealth mentality is like this. A poverty mentality is reactive. Okay. It's always reacting to life's events. It doesn't plan ahead. And it doesn't believe that they have enough to start building wealth, to start investing, to start being disciplined with their money. They think, oh, I need to make more money. Oh, I'm not where I want to be. I can't start that yet. That's a poverty mentality. Right. And then he says a wealth mentality is proactive. It understands that you have to plan ahead and be proactive for life's inevitable happenings. And it understands that every single dollar, in the way I remixed it with Quantum Wealth, every single unit of currency, you can start right now and start building towards your wealth goals.
That's true.
And so when I say it comes back to the mindset, that's what I'm talking about. If you have a wealth mentality, no matter how much money you have, you know that you can start putting brick by brick, whether that's your focus and attention to start learning about these concepts, or whether that's $1 today, you know, $5 tomorrow. It really is a mindset that, again, seeing the big picture to know why I want to prioritize my future needs at the same time that I'm maintaining my immediate needs too. And so when we talk about mindset and zooming out and seeing the big picture, like that's why it's so important.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you that, you know, it is a mindset. I think to your point, I've even felt that sometimes, like, man, I can't go out and do this thing until I got X amount, right? Or I can't go out and start this until I got X amount, or I can't invest here until I got, you know, X amount to jump into it. And that is a mindset that, you're right, it comes from a poverty mindset. Like we'll save a bunch of money up to go buy a bag, right? Or some shoes, but, you know, don't realize that we could do that same $500 or $150, $200 into some type of investment vehicle, whether it be, you know, a company, technology company, startup, or, you know, even to the stock market, and still get returns, right? Over time, that would be also. Then we can buy multiple shoes, right? We can buy multiple bags, right? We can buy one bag and still have, you know, and still get the bag. You know what I'm saying? Like you got both, but you're right. It's that, well, you know, I'll start when I only make, you know, I only got $2 every single month after I pay all my bills, right?
Yeah.
That $2, you know, over 12 months, that's $25. You can buy a share. You know what I mean? Like you can buy a share of something, you know? And so like that is a mindset. And then those shares split. And when people don't realize that over time, those shares split in companies, companies grow, right? And so that $24 could be, you know, potentially $240 one day, right? That you spent. you've invested. So I totally agree with you on that part.
Yeah. And what we're saying, but we haven't said it explicitly, is it doesn't matter how much money you make or where you sit on the tax bracket. A wealth mentality or poverty mentality, it can happen to anybody on that spectrum of wealth.
Right.
And so at the same time, it's not like a fixed thing. Like, oh, once you have a poverty mentality, you have that until you reprogram it. It's like, no, I've been doing this wealth mindset work, for about 7 years now. And still every decision is this decision from a poverty mentality or is this decision from a wealth mentality? Like none of this stuff is fixed. And so that's my favorite part too, with the empowerment piece. Like there's a very intentional reason why I say financial empowerment and not financial literacy when I'm talking about this stuff, because it's really helping people just to reframe and see that big picture, in all the context that we're talking about. Cause like, really, you could do it too. And it's the discipline. And I think this is one of the videos you sent me, choose your hard. You know what I'm saying? Like it's hard to not go out to happy hour with my coworkers, when I want to, but it's also hard to, keep doing the same thing every day, not getting the results that you want. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that hangover hard too,
Hey, that hangover's hard too.
It's hard to go to the gym every single morning at 4 a.m., but it's also hard being a big boy, you know what I'm saying? Walking around with all that weight, so if you choose your hard, right? It's hard to be poor, but it's also hard to be broke. You know what I mean? It's hard to be rich and keep that up, right? Or wake up every single day and try to figure out how you're going to make money or how you're going to increase your money, right? But it's also hard being poor, so you got to choose your heart. I always love that expression, choose your heart, right? I want to switch this over to something. I'm going to put this article up here. Mm-hmm. And the article, unfortunately, our friends on TikTok can't see it right this minute, but I can tell you what the article says. So it's an article that I found the other day that I think it hit home. And let me see if I can pull it up here. I want to pull up just the window. Okay. So it talks about how does investment in Black communities help everyone, right? And this person breaks down that by helping the Black community, it's systemic, right? Just like, things.
Wait, are you sharing the article?
Yeah, can you see it?
Nope, can't see it.
Oh, it's not popping up yet? Okay.
Let
me see. Let's see again. Let's try this again. Let's see. So stop screen. Stop there. And then we're going to try to share again. See if this works. And we just want to share this.
There it is.
It's up now?
Yep.
Okay. So it was from someone at UC Berkeley, a graduate student. How does investment in Black communities help everyone? And this goes around what we were talking about, or something that at first when I hear it, I'm kind of like, I'm not going to say I'm triggered, but I'm like, it hits weird. But then I really understand, like I had to adjust my mindset, right? So, why is investment in our own communities a radical act, right? And it is, when you think about it, traditionally, investment in our communities is not a thing, right? It was not discouraged, right? It's discouraged. People will tell you, like, don't buy the block, right? Go. Typically, once we start making money, we go out of our community and try to go to communities that we are more surrounded by people who don't look like us, right? Yep. And so what ends up happening is that, again, we take that money outside of the community and so we put it in someone else's community, basically empowering them, right? But he goes on to talk about how the teachers and everything else are inadequate. And because of systemic racism, these things have happened, particularly in California, he's talking about, but we see this all across the world. But then he goes on to say that it's interconnected, right? And addresses the systemic barriers that Black Americans create, the template for dismantling inequality more broadly And then he talks about everybody else, how they do the same thing across other communities, how this can go across other communities, from immigrants to disabled to LGBTQ communities as well. All these things connect, right? It's almost like a template, right? Where our communities are used as a template for basically dismantling other communities, right?
Yeah.
And that was hard hitting. Let me stop sharing it. But that was hard hitting. Like I was like, oh my God, like we are like the template. I don't know if you ever seen that that Netflix Who Cloned Tyrone?
Yes, I have.
Oh God, that messed me up.
That was a good one.
Oh, but you think about it, it's kind of like what they've used our communities before. Like they want to test things, like certain things out, right? Projects called the projects because it was a project, right?
Yeah.
And so like you think about that, investing in our communities is radical because it just hasn't been done. They've used it as a test, right? But we've never invested in our community. In fact, we actually are taught not to, so much so that we are even taught how scary it is to invest in people or areas that look like us, right? Like which may be Africa, whatever it may be. So it's a whole dismantling of us, right? It's radical, but we have to make it radical in a way that it's positive, right? It is radical to not invest, but how radical would it be to invest in somebody who's in your community creating a mixed use building, right?
Yeah.
Or creating a for-profit school, right? If there are people who have the ability to pay for schools in Black communities, right?
Yeah.
Why not have schools for profit? Why not have monasteries or private schools? I'm creating a private school, right? It's for profit. I'm going to go ahead and put this school here. I'm raising this project.
Yes. Man. Okay.
You about to say something. Go ahead.
Okay. Now you're getting me riled up. Okay. So radical for good is what you're talking about. Yeah. And the way I look at it, I think we talked about it before, how one of my mantras is I vote with my dollars or I vote with my lifestyle. And so the reason why we're even talking about investing in our communities being a radical act is because of corporatization. I'm not going to blame it all on capitalization, but corporatization, where for the same reason why I don't shop at Walmart or buy Starbucks anymore. I go out of my way to find a local coffee shop, if I ever need to stop and get coffee. And that's just because, if we really understand these corporate entities, where their profits are going, the different communities and initiatives they're supporting, if you really understood that, you would realize that you no longer want to fund those initiatives, as in letting these corporations be the middleman. And so when you talk about investing in our communities as a radical act for good, that's wise, because it's kind of taboo to say, I don't shop at Starbucks or I don't shop at Walmart. And instead, I'm going to, build my own general store in our community that's mixed use, that also houses some people. Like, that's radical. That's just because of, the American society has done a great job at making us feel like there's only one way to live and operate successfully in this place.
Right. Yeah. To your point. I mean, now go back to what you said about the fear. Well, I don't have enough to be able to invest. This is why crowdfunding is so huge. People can invest as little as $100 into a project and feel like they're making a difference. They don't got to be like, well, I got to wait until I got $1,000 or $2,000 or $25,000 before I can invest in this project. No, you can invest in one of these projects at $100, right? $100, and then still make a great effect, because that's that community investment. That's a collective investment. That's that $1.3 trillion in buying power or investment power, honestly, that we have as Black Americans in the United States to affect change, right? And so one of the reasons why, when I was looking at crowdfunding and investment vehicles that could legally happen into projects, first I wanted to just put up a site that, people throw up their projects and people can invest. But then I realized, oh my God, we were running into issues with SEC, Security Exchange Commission, and FINRA. So what vehicles are there? And so when I saw crowdfunding, I was like, oh my God, this is perfect, right? It's regulated. People can feel like they have the compliance, they have some type of backing from the government, not backing, but at least some assurance of regulation from the government as far as the investment is concerned. But then not just donations. This is equity. This is return on your investment, right? You'll be able to ride past a building or a farm or a, you know, some type of manufacturing plant and be like, yo, I put my investment in that building. I put my investment in that company, right? Yeah. My $100, I looked at my statement the other day, my $100. Oh, okay. My $100 is now $110, right? According to their last, you know, CPA or their last founding, you know, whatever, financial statement or whatever it may be. Okay, my investment is growing. Oh, you know what? I may give a few more dollars to them because I like the way this is going. I like the way this is trending, right? They've gotten a new, you know, they've got a new company, they got a new customer. This is what crowdfunding can do for our community that I feel like we need, right? We need to have, and this vehicle out here to be able to do it.
Yeah. Okay. So perfect. So first of all, again, one of the things I love about Karuti is that equity piece, because that's what sets Karuti crowdfunding marketplace aside from all the other GoFundMe's, you know, Kickstarter, is when you donate on those, it's just that, a donation. And you may get some perks or some merchandise in return, you know, in the case of Kickstarter. But with Karuti, you actually get equity in these companies, is what we're calling projects. And so that's number one difference. But what I wanted to double click on, again, because of how my brain likes to understand things, the context of it, when you're talking about that $100 going to 110 and you feeling excited about it, that's that ripple effect or the compound interest or the momentum that you start to build on. Because just like working out or building any habit, investing, being disciplined with your finances, that is a muscle, a habit that you have to build. And so you can do it once for 1 month, but if you fall off month 2, month 3, and then you go back month 4, like you're not going to build any momentum that way. And so scientifically, the part of your brain that's recognizing this momentum is called your reticular activating system. And its whole design is to seek out more opportunities that you say are important to you. And the way you tell your brain what's important to you is by what you focus on and what you're consuming through all 5 of your senses. And so if you watching more investing videos on YouTube, you listening to more podcasts, you go into these events, now you finally put your first $100 in there. You just have to do everything you can to continue to program your reticular activating system to say, hey, investing is important to me. And so you start to build that momentum, you get that discipline, that muscle, and not only discipline, like it's got to be hard. It starts to get fun and exciting. And when you could tap into that fun and exciting piece, now you're off to the races.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. That's a big, that part, that scientific of how we invest and how we think is key to understanding like what it is that we need to do internally. There's one thing to say like, hey, look, you know, I got a spending habit. But there's another thing to break down why I have a spending habit versus an investment habit, right? And why we particularly a lot of times have the spending habit over investment habit. I'm not gonna put it up. I saw the other day something that broke my heart.
Yeah.
This lady spent her money on a rapper. I'm not gonna say who the rapper is, a rap concert. She paid $4,000 for some floor tickets, right? And then proceeded to go online and ask people, I saw it. Can they go ahead?
Her rent was late.
Her rent was late, right? Oh, somebody was trying to come in. My bad. My bad. Oh no, I'm still getting used to this TikTok, right? So let me see.
Hello, my friend. How are you?
So anyway, so yeah, her rent was late and she's about to be evicted. So then she wanted to ask, okay, well, can somebody help me with my rent? And I'm just like, wow.
Wow.
Right? Like, wow, floor tickets for a rapper. I'm not against going to a show, but you spent, and she got kids. And it's like, to your point, like it's almost like a drug, right? Like we're so conditioned to spend.
Yeah.
That we are now in a place where we're spending even our house and homes, right, to just try to feed that need to spend. It gets in your pocket, it needs to come out. It gets in your pocket, it needs to come out, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a blow. When I saw it, I was like, oh my God. When she said me and my kids, I was like, oh my God, right? Like, why? Right? Like, why? Like, why are we doing this? But then when you break down why it is,
yeah,
it makes more sense to me as to like, okay, from a scientific standpoint, it's no different than when you eat sugar, right? I like to work out.
that drug.
You eat sugar.
Yeah.
Right. It's a drug. In fact, it was such a big drug, as you guys know, it's why so many of us sit in the United States right this minute. That's how big of a drug it was to people. It was such a big thing that many of us sit in the United States right now just to drive the trade or to grow sugar, right? And cotton. So that's how big of a drug it was. But you think about that drug in your system. Yeah. And it's hard. When I want to get off sugar, the first few days of trying to get off sugar is absolutely devastating. I feel depressed. I'm like, why am I living? Life without sugar just shouldn't be, right?
Okay. Let's talk. Let's double click on this.
Yeah.
Because what we're talking about is the socially accepted drugs versus the socially demonized drugs. Okay. And so again, understanding what society, media, propaganda, they have all their interest in making sure that people believe certain things. Okay. Yeah. So when we talk about sugar, when we talk about caffeine, when we talk about alcohol, and at this point, social media and, our consumption of whether it's streaming Netflix or social media, these are society accepted drugs. It's okay to OD on sugar or coffee or when I say OD, I just mean go above natural consumption. And, people brag about like, oh yeah, I got so blacked out last week and I don't remember anything. And they say it like, like it's okay, granted everybody has their moments, but then you talk about, other things like, let's say psychedelics or, other things that may be not socially accepted, but the research is there to show how beneficial it can be. Okay. That's a different one. But talking about socially accepted drugs, shopping in consumption is one of those socially accepted drugs. It's those numbers show in our household debt. It shows in our U.S. debt, and we're just
the cars we drive, right?
Bro, it shows us in the houses we have. It shows in the bags and the purses, And so spending, we talk about the drug. I feel like a lot of our problems come back to like our relationship with dopamine and our chase for it, and getting extra hits at any moment when we open our social media versus, the motivation that comes with, long-term commitment to see the results, like working out and stuff like that. And so shopping is absolutely one of those things. You get that dopamine surge from hunting, searching, anticipating what you want. And then if you ever wonder why you come home and have buyer's remorse and you're like, man, I really should have bought that. That's because your dopamine wore down, and you're coming up off that high.
Yeah. I mean, again, to piggyback on that point, when you break down the science of why we are the way we are as Black Americans specifically, because I've noticed that a lot of times you don't get the same effect with African Americans or Blacks who come here, right?
I can see that.
Directly from the continent. They are more, I would say, disciplined in some ways when it comes to their spending habits, right? And we come with the expectation and the want, to continue to spend, but we've been here, we've been conditioned to spend, right? And so we have to take responsibility of that and say, look, even though this is a thing that we've been shown to do, whether it's in our music, whether it's in our, our images that we see, we can change that by doing what you said, having that discipline. Try to, I'm about to push the Amazon button. You know what? Do I really need to do that today? Just take a second, right?
Just one second.
Take an hour. Be like, look, I really want that thing, but let me come back in an hour and see if I still want it in an hour, right? Or see if there's if I already have that product, or see if there's something else that I can do to replace it, or whatever it may be. And a lot of times we'll find, especially for me, I find once I walk away from it, I'm like, man, I don't really need that thing. Like, I'm gonna go ahead and wait. But what we can do is give ourselves milestones, right? We can give ourselves milestones. If I do a certain amount of things and I go ahead and get that reward. I do that with my daughters, right?
Mm-hmm.
So instead of just giving them things, I'm like, okay, if you eat, your food, your vegetables, you do all these things, you get a special treat, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to condition their mind to doing something that's hard, choosing your hard, so that you can get the reward at the end, right?
Yes.
It's hard not to get that special treat,
Yeah.
but it's even harder, right?
Yeah.
If I don't eat this food, because then I know I'm not going to get a special treat,
Yeah.
right?
And probably get in trouble.
Right? And I might get in trouble, right? So I'm trying to condition them. I'm trying to condition them to do that even when it comes to their thoughts about schooling, right? Like math can be hard, science can be hard, reading can be hard, right? But if you can condition your mind that at the end of it, there's a reward, right? And typically our reward is pizza night on Fridays, right? And some movie.
Yeah.
Then they're like, okay, I can get through the week, right? I'll get through the week, these 5 days, because on Friday I know that I get a reward of being able to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
That is something that I've taken from different cultures, right?
Yes.
Outside of our community that I love. Instead of, you can do the carrot, as they say, or the stick, right?
Yes.
Most of the time, the carrot is going to be the best way to do things. Every once in a while, you got to do the stick.
Yeah.
But we respond really, really well to that dopamine, as you talked about, right? That positive dopamine, like you're like, oh, a positive impact on me, that dopamine. And so I am trying to condition them that. Now, as I'm doing it with them, I'm like, oh man, I got my own things. I'm like, damn, I need to work on my, using the carrot on me instead of the, oh, now I'm down and out. I got to do this thing, right? I got to get on it.
Yep.
Why don't I do this for the long run to see the big picture, right? The big picture of whatever it is. So yeah, it is a scientific piece to it. I love the fact that you bring that part in.
Yes.
To it.
Okay, so the last thing I want to say about this piece is what you're talking about, the reward. Something with the work that I do, you'll rarely hear me say budget or a budget, because the connotation around budget sounds restrictive, or like I can't enjoy my hard-earned money, or I have to delay my gratification. Right. And so language is so important because, our brain doesn't know the nuances, it just takes the raw data. And so a budget's not about being, cutting yourself off from enjoyment today. It's about considering your future enjoyment needs as well. And when you talk about our community, Will, we have to understand how we got here to have this type of mindset. And that's because when you go back, 400 plus years into the past, we understand we didn't always have the luxury of planning for the future and looking ahead. And so when you're talking about that YOLO culture, or I'm just going to spend what I have now because I want to, I deserve it, I earn it. Like there's, historical reasons on why we operate that way. And so that's why this mindset and this reprogramming is so important, is because, we understand how we got here. And so now we just have to use the knowledge and the tools we have now to do something about it. And it's not going to be a passive act. It has to be radical. Like you said, like we have to radically change what we're doing, how we're thinking, and how we're approaching it, because gradual progress is not going to, get us to where we want to be, I'll say.
No, I was just doing something on my, I was just showing on my Instagram, like every day I do kind of like a drawing, and then kind of show people like a complex idea through a drawing. And one of it was how investing works, right? Like, and you have big giant companies right now that are trees, they're mature trees, they're IPOs. But a lot of us right now are still in the seedling, or not even in the seedling area, right? Mm-hmm. And you want to be able to grow from that seedling to be able to compete with these giant trees. And it's even more important today because some of these giant trees, or a lot of these giant trees, are trying to gear people in the mindset of white supremacy. I'm going to go ahead and put it out there, right?
Yep.
And so the platforms will allow white supremacists to say what they want to say. But if you bring up something about a Black community, or you bring up something and the algorithm sees you as a Black person bringing up something about someone in power, it will literally like drop you down, or won't take your ad, as these other people are getting ads put up, as long as it's in line with what the thinking is. Well, that's important, right?
Yes.
So we have to be able to connect, or have the ability to be able to affect change. But a lot of us are under the poverty line, or under the seed area, not even being seen, while these big IPOs and trees are there.
Yeah.
And so how do we get there quickly? Because the gap in AI will continue to grow those trees even larger into forests, right? And we in our community will still be in under the ground in the seed area, not even nowhere near. And at that point, no one even cares about us. I mean, it's very little care now anyway, but at that point, the people are too far removed to even think about trying to grow anything here, right?
Yeah.
The way that ends up happening, that I noticed that companies were using, but I didn't get it, is that they get the traction through crowdfunding. They go to their community, they go to people who look like them, right? Because that's what these other people do. That's what our counterparts do. They go to communities that look like them.
Family and friends.
Idea, right?
Yeah.
We can go to our same community and get this funding to get our seeds up and out of the ground. And then the great thing about crowdfunding is that it spans over a few different models, right? So it can go from the seed area, which is Reg CF, which is about 5 million, all the way up to 75 million in funding when it comes to like what we call a mini IPO, a Regulation A+ mini IPO, where everybody can invest from accredited to retail investors. And then a Reg D, which could potentially be unlimited when it comes to how much investment you can raise, right, through what is called accredited investors, right?
Yeah.
That is a life cycle of that tree. That's a life cycle of the seed to the plant coming out, right, to it being a tree that can compete. But we need to be able to catch up. You mentioned something that was important. How do we catch up? This is the only way I see for us to catch up. There's no other way for us to catch up. There's no way for us to be like, well, you know, we're going to fund the best and the brightest. No, it needs to be as many seeds planted in the ground and all of us putting a little bit of water on it, right? Water on it and seeing what grows out of it. Because that's what everybody else does. They throw it up against the wall and they say, look,
put a bunch of seeds out there.
Right. And some stick, some don't. But we're all planting a little bit of money inside of them. Something will hit. That's how we do it. That's the power of crowdfunding.
Yeah. Man. Okay. And so I feel like this will be a good teaser into future episodes talking about Vince that we met with the marketing. Because when you talked about the crowdfunding and raising funds from your community, because we already understand the miseducation of the Negro and some of the skepticism we have towards each other because of the programming, we understand that in order to raise funds from your community, we're going to have to tell a damn good story. You know, we're going to have to make sure that they understand why this investment is not only good for them, but good for the community at large, good for the future generations. We really have to do our best to market our projects and to make sure we're telling the story and the narrative that connects with the people, because we're not for lack of investment opportunities. Like we've been saying, there's projects, private companies, the stock market, real estate. You can invest in so many different things. But the reason why people haven't been investing is this mindset, maybe this distrust. And so if we're going to be ushering people into this new investment world, it's our responsibility, you know what I'm saying, to really tell that story in a way, not to just say, hey, give me $100, I'll give you 10%. Like, it's not like, let's really dig in, tell that story and connect human to human, because I feel like that's also a part of the mindset piece that gets people on board, is that connection.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and I want to be clear about investment. You know, FINRA and SEC wants us to make sure that you know that investment has a certain amount of risk. And by no means is anything that we say here is investment advice. We're not, you know, advisors. We're not licensed advisors or anything else like that. We're everyday people like you that's watching us today. But we do want people to understand that there are vehicles out there. And by the way, alternative investments is, I think, it's going to be almost 20 trillion in the next 5 to 10 years, right? So people will be, what that means is alternative investments is things outside the stock market, right? And the bond market. People are going to be looking for alternative investments outside of these markets, right? And so that is set to be close to 20 trillion in the next 5 to 10 years. That's a lot of money in things outside of the FANG market, right? That we just in the United States have 1.3 trillion of that market, that buying power. So it is going to be important for us to be able to understand and judge what is a good risk And what is a risk that is like, okay, I've looked at this, I've seen this before. What about this person's idea is different than X, Y, and Z? Understanding the risk factors is going to be huge, right? Because investment carries a high risk. But with the high risk, there's also a high reward, right?
Yeah.
And again, it's about the diversity of your investments. You should not be investing all in one thing, right?
Yes.
Now, real estate is probably one of the things that you can always invest in, but it can be slow. So there are other vehicles when you add real estate to that can accelerate both that company and the real estate value. That's one of the things that we're pushing heavily here at Karuti, that combination of both real estate and tech, what we call prop tech, to be able to accelerate both pieces of your asset, both the technology piece and the real estate, to catch up to those big trees that are out there, right?
Yes.
That we need to be able to compete with in the future from a technology standpoint, and even just from a global standpoint, an economic standpoint, social standpoint, everything.
All the standpoints.
All the standpoints, all of them, not just some, all the standpoints.
Every single one of them. Wow. Okay, that was a good one. Okay, so as we, let's say, wrap it up, what are some final thoughts we have?
So again, want to be clear about this, because I love all people, right? You know what I'm saying? And so I want them to understand that investment carries risk. You should look into disclosures when you're looking at investment. The SEC and FINRA provides a lot of information about investing, right? And the risks that are inherent. Anytime you invest on our upcoming portal, when we launch it, hopefully within the next 90 days, you will always see the disclosure area about risk. Pay attention to that. That will help you understand the risks that are involved in it. Do your own education. Chat is a great way, or even Google now, their Gemini is a great way to learn about investment. It'll lead you into a rabbit hole, but go ahead, full head into that rabbit hole, because there are going to be opportunities out here in your community, in your communities, in your community, right? That there will be people who will be launching their projects that will greatly affect your community, not Silicon Valley, not the billionaires. It'll be in your community. And so you will have this opportunity of being able to invest from an equity standpoint inside of these projects. And so you will want to know you'll want to be very versed in how this all works. We'll be providing more and more information on our lives, but that's really what I want to do. Your part, do your due diligence in figuring out how you can invest. What are the things that you should be looking at as far as companies are concerned? What's that product mix? What do you like to invest in? That's the other thing. If you don't like to invest in something, you're not going to go and do the due diligence of it, right? Which means that you're going to put yourself at more risk of investing in that thing, because you don't understand how that works. So figure out the things that you like. If it's agriculture, right? If it's mixed use buildings, if it's commercial, if it's more residential, right? If it's multi-unit, figure out what you like. If it's industrial, figure out what you like to invest in, right? And then do your research on that. Figure out all the companies around that, so that when you come in and we've launched these projects, you are ready to go. You're like, hey, I know that I like gold mines. I don't want to invest in nothing but gold mines. I don't know how many gold mines we'll have on there, but I don't want to invest in anything but gold mines, right? Because I know gold. I understand the technology that people are using behind it. That's my thing. I think it's going to be used in the future. Or I like to invest in farms and agriculture. So that would be my thing. Look into the risk, and then also look into whatever it is that you like to invest in and how you invest.
Okay, nice. So my final words for today is to bring in that excitement. Don't forget to bring in the excitement. When we talk about financial situations, the economy, a lot of that stuff, may not be exciting in itself, but because we understand how our brain works, how it is motivated to do certain things, we could talk about that science later. But for now, do what you can to be excited about this new adventure you're about to embark on. And so if you can be excited, find the projects that you are interested in, like Will said, and then whether you're going to be an investor in those projects, or maybe you want to start one of those projects. When you're walking in your community, get excited, look around. What would you like to see? What would help your community? And start to think that way. Because when you start to bring in that excitement, looking forward to the future, and you're actually motivated internally for these things, it makes it that much easier to take the actions to actually start to reach them.
I love that. I love that. Well, I want to say a big thank you to everybody who's been online with us, both on TikTok, but then all the other platforms that we're on, YouTube, also Instagram, our own site. So thank you for joining us. We'll continue to do these every week. We'll continue to do them even after we've launched a platform. Please feel free to reach out. Right now, we are raising capital, right? So you can find us at Karooti. You can find us on WeFunder. WeFunder is a big crowdfunding platform. So WeFunder.com/Karooti. We have a $50,000 reserve. We can't really talk about anything else more than that, but you can see it. And if there's something that you like, or if you have comments or you have questions, please feel free to use that to ask us questions. Me, Asia, or one of the other team members will answer them. And if you like whatever we're saying, please reach out on our site and you'll also see, yep, there it is right there. You can see us raising money, our highlights. We just put it up yesterday. So, but you can read more about us there as well. So thank you again for joining us. Look forward to having you guys next week.
See y'all.
See you.